Sleep. It is one of the mysteries of modern science. We spend more than a third of our lives sleeping, yet do we know exactly what it is? And more importantly, why do we sleep at all? All animals sleep, but one of the key differences between being in a coma or hibernating and sleeping is that sleep is easily reversible. The other is that sleep is restorative. The first thing animals do when they come out of hibernation is go back to sleep. Now, is this restorative property why we sleep?
In humans, sleep can be divided into two observable states, rapid and non-rapid eye movement sleep, otherwise known as REM and non-REM sleep. In REM sleep, the electrical activity of the brain is similar to when we are awake. It is also the state associated with dreaming. In REM sleep, we are actually paralyzed, and so unlike what many people believe, when we are moving in our sleep, we are actually in deep sleep. These deeper stages of sleep is associated with non-REM sleep, which have stages all defined by the brainwave activity present. We move in between these states throughout the evening, moving in and out of deep sleep and even waking up several times in the night. This is shown on a hypnogram.
We're here in South Kensington, and we decided to ask members of the public a few questions about sleep. So how many hours on average do you think you sleep at night?
I'm a definite 8 hour.
Too much.
7.
I sleep 7 hours a night.
Okay.
Yeah.
7.
Yeah, I would get about 7 or 8, yes. Yeah.
How many hours do you reckon we need as humans to sleep?
Maybe 7.
7?
Yeah.
Okay.
Between 6 and 8.
8 hours.
I should be getting about 9.
The same for me.
Yeah.
Do you have an idea why we need to sleep?
Just to sort of recover from the day before.
Just to work intellectually and physically.
Yeah.
You know, it's essential.
The body needs to be rested and the brain needs to be rested.
I think the whole body needs to rest.
Your brain's resting and your
body's recovering.
Yeah, from
all the stresses and strains of the day.
Yes, and can't manage without sleep because that's one way they do of torturing prisoners, isn't it? Taking their sleep away from them.
I'll add a rider to what I said. I have a nap after lunch.
So we've just heard back from our respondents, and the most common reason why they thought we needed sleep was to rest the body and mind. Now, we don't exactly know why we need to sleep, but there are some theories around. To help explore this, we're here at Imperial College and we're going to ask 2 professors who currently study sleep a few questions.
We asked Dr. Gillester why he thought we needed sleep. Dr. Gillester currently works on flies to see what genetic changes occur during our sleep.
Most people concentrate on the effect that sleep has on the brain, so memory, cognitive performance, and that's because we're actually very familiar with those, so they are kind of easy to grasp. But there is no evidence, in fact, that sleep is only for the brain. Even though that's something that you might read on papers and reviews, the one thing that's often cited is that sleep is by the brain, for the brain. That is quite dogmatic and absolutely not backed up by evidence. If you look at the experiment of chronic sleep deprivation that I was mentioning before, the ones on rats, you'll see that those animals die and the brain is actually, after 2 weeks or 3 weeks of sleep deprivation, the brain is pretty much okay, and it's all, every other organ in the body actually that is messed up. So they look miserable, they lack fur, they have a lot of sign of stress, they have metabolic changes, and so it's not really just the brain. In fact, the brain doesn't seem to be awfully affected. And so it's well possible. It's something that actually that I take into very serious account, is that sleep as a function that is for all cells, and we just happen to see effects on the brain because they somehow more important to us, but they're not necessarily the ones for which we die, for instance.
Most of the general sort of people quite understandably think that going to sleep is a passive process, but actually it's an active process. It's shutting the brain down to go to sleep actually needs special kinds of neurons to say no to other parts, active parts of the brain. So there's sort of yes neurons, and they release a kind of chemical called histamine, the same histamine that is in our immune system. And maybe you've noticed if you take an antihistamine, you feel sleepy. So these neurons, the histamine neurons and other similar kinds of neurons, are active all the time in our brain when we're awake. And there's a whole special brain circuitry that actually specializes in shutting them down as we go to sleep and keeping them shut down while we're asleep. And a lot of the biochemistry of that process is not understood. And a very common example is if I sleep deprive you for 12 hours, like right now, if I were not to let you to go to sleep until this time tomorrow, actually, so 24 hours of sleep deprivation, you'd actually have to go to sleep regardless of if you wanted to concentrate on staying awake. You'd actually pass out. And that's called in the field homeostatic sleep pressure. And there must be, you would think, a simple biochemical process for that in the brain, but remarkably we don't know what that is. We do know that after you've been sleep deprived, some inhibitory neurons in your brain start firing at a very dramatic rate to switch off the histamine neurons. So there must be some kind of biochemical signal that signals that. So the longer I've sleep deprived you, the greater your urge to sleep is, and the longer you sleep in proportion. So remarkably, we don't know how that works, and that's kind of what we're trying to investigate in our lab, part of the brain circuitry that does that.
While the reasons why we need to sleep remain a mystery, it is clear that we need it for our brains and bodies to function normally. In our busy modern lifestyles, we need to put a higher priority on having a good night's sleep.